Okay, we are live and unmuted in the council chamber and all around the region as well online by the looks of things. There's one person there that isn't muted. We'll try and see if we can deal with that. But a big welcome to everyone, particularly big welcome to Mia Lewis joining us online there. And I understand you have some QLDC staff members. I think Penny and Michelle were joining you, but you'll introduce yourself later on. And CODC, I think we have Dylan Rushbrook as well. Big welcome to you. Welcome to councillors joining us in the room and online, to staff and to community and anyone who is watching the live stream. I'll begin with a karakia. Tue ki runga, tue ki raro, tue ki waho, tue ki roto, tue ki te here tangata, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao, haumie, huie, taiki. Thank you very much, everyone. So just the formalities. Apologies from Councillor Michael Laws, unless he's joined while I wasn't looking at the screen. No, so apologies from him. No public forum today. We can confirm the agenda. A reminder on declarations of interest to any councillors. Please flag any standard reminder there. And without further ado, we're on to our paper, which is the 6.1 Regional Deals paper. And yes, we are fortunate enough today to have been joined by Mia Lowers and also have a video from Mia Ali as well, just outlining a little bit from their perspective about what a regional deal means to their areas, and also collectively to that area that we are terming the Otago Central Lakes. So yeah, it's fantastic to have been working together on this, and I'll say some words from Otago Regional Council's perspective, but while we have Mia's ready to go, I think we'll get underway with that. How we probably will structure today is that we will have a video from Mia Ali, who is unable to be present. I think that their council is actually considering this paper today as well, but she's prepared with the video, so we'll have that, and then we will have Mia Lowers, and we'll do their, not yet, Andrew Hone is not muted and on his phone. So yeah, we're going to need to sort out the, thank you very much. Yeah, so Mia Lewis will be speaking, and then following that we'll have a chance to just ask any questions that we like of both probably Dylan and also Mia Lewis and staff that are supporting him there. Then we're going to get into the paper as usual. Richard will have some things to say from us, and then questions, of course, first of all, and then into motions and debate. So, shall we go with the video first of all?
Ata Marie, good morning ORC. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I had hoped to be there in person this morning, but our meetings are actually on at the same time. My views on this document is that it is a great starting point for negotiations with a party who aren't even at the table yet, central government. I think there is a real risk of getting bogged down in the detail of the document. There is a lot crammed into those pages. This negotiation is based on the first page picture: visitors and investors, transport, energy, value capture, and health. I reckon you can fit a lot on the table under those very broad headings. As much as we tout our 10-year plans, local government hasn't always done long-term planning well. This is an opportunity for truly intergenerational thinking across our region that takes into account the risks and opportunities for our people, our environment, and the way of life that we value here. We have many synergies between our districts, like the fact Queenstown is currently being built with a workforce from Central Otago. What can I say? We're not afraid of a hard day's work here. This is not a one-and-done document and will of course evolve over time, as it has in other locations with city and regional deals. Call me sceptical, but I believe it is highly unlikely that central government will rubber stamp something put together by local government. QLDC and CODC make up around 50% of Otago's GDP, despite our population being 1 in 6. Together with ORC, it puts us in a strong position, and as much as QLDC need us, we both need them too. The feedback I've had so far from the public has been very positive. People have reservations about some aspects, which is understandable, but like the aspirational vision. I'm excited about where this could lead to, even though there's some ironing out to be done along the way. I absolutely believe there is scope in the next phase to work on important aspects such as the governance model and the order of priorities. Good luck with your decision making today. Thank you so much for your time. Ata Marie, good morning ORC.
Okay, I was about to thank Mia Ali. I'll thank her virtually. That was fantastic. Right, now we will go to Mia Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors, for allowing the opportunity. Just to reinforce what Mia Ali was saying, this is really about an opportunity to negotiate with central government. It puts us all potentially at the same level instead of the power imbalance we currently feel or see. happening between local government and central government. And as the Mayor from Central Otago has stated, it's not perfect, the pitch for some. There are elements that you may or may not agree with, but the overall vision, being bold, being progressive, and actually trying to break the system that has, in our view, put us in quite a difficult situation of trying to actually improve the quality of life here in QLDC. So from our point of view, this is just a first step, a foot in the door into negotiation. We see further progression as if we are successful in negotiating the outcomes we see. Now, if we look at a higher level and you look at experience overseas, Manchester being one, 13 years, 8 deals that they have negotiated. They've always kept relationships and the outcomes we're trying to achieve at the forefront. We haven't looked at the detail. We've been told to do a light touch, even though I can tell you now, the staff here, when we mention light touch, I know there's been extremely high level of work gone into this, and to distill 5 years of strategic planning, of which ORC have been involved with under our Urban Growth Partnership, into a very tight and succinct package has taken a fair amount of work. So I see this as a huge opportunity for both the 2 districts and the ORC, and a huge opportunity to be bold, progressive, and to break the current legislative shackles of what we do now. So open questions, but I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions that are specifically for our partners in any potential proposal? Yep, Councillor Metham.
Thanks, Lynn. When we were up, Alex, the other day, you spoke about the competitive aspect of the regional deals, mentioning Auckland and Tauranga. Could you just outline that a little bit more as well? I'm just not too clear on the competitive nature of this. I mean, we either come out winners or not. Is that correct with these proposals?
Oh, look, if you look at the history of how this has developed from a central government viewpoint, initially they were just going to invite 5, and they gave a pretty good steer in their strategy document. They would look at those territorial authorities with an existing urban growth partnership and ones with potential for or experiencing high growth. Now, if you look across the country, the high growth councils are Queenstown Lakes District, Hamilton and Tauranga, and obviously Auckland because of its huge potential, because of its population base. So that's the basis of my comment. It is we will be assessed against other pitches. So we've tried to put our best foot forward in framing it in the way that this government has actually tried to meet those outcomes that they've expressed in their strategic document.
So in terms of that, then you say you've compressed your 5-year strategic plan. Is that if you don't come out as being selected, I guess through government for a regional deal, what you've got there is still your 5-year strategic plan basically, but with perhaps a few hitches around legislative barriers. Is that correct? Yeah.
Look, what inhibits our growth and our quality of life and our potential, mainly our potential and the opportunity, is some of those legislative barriers. And you'll see in our proposal, we've asked for quite a few legislative barriers to be removed and actually to give our sub-region some more levers that we can adjust, play around with to actually improve the economic growth, but also the quality of life of our regions. Or residents, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can ask technical questions of our own staff as well in a moment. So yeah, thank you very much. I can't see any other hands up at the moment for questions specifically of our partners. No? Okay then. So thank you once again for joining us. You are welcome to stay there if you'd like to. Otherwise, you're also welcome to watch us at your leisure at another time. So yeah, understand you're really busy and have other things on your calendar for today. So whatever works for you, but you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to hand over now to our CE Richard Saunders for a little intro.
Thanks, Gretchen. So what ORC is being asked to do today is to support the submission of the light touch proposal, as we've heard, to the DIA, which is very much in accordance with the process that has been set out by them. It addresses the key criteria set by government for this process: economic growth, connected and resilient infrastructure, improving supply of affordable and quality housing. And just noting again that the proposal requires the support of the regional council to be submitted to DIA. So there is a critical role for this council in this stage of the process. I would just flag that at this time, we are only dealing with the submission of the light touch proposal. Should it go through, and I think referring to paragraph 9 in the report, which states, if successful, significant further work would be required to progress and implement any deal. There is clearly a much greater role for ORC to play at that time, and those arrangements for negotiating how the governance table will be involved in that, how we look to move that forward, would be decided only if this light touch proposal is selected to go through to the next phase. So I guess just giving you some reassurance around this table that there are a number of things that would still need to be determined, but they don't need to be determined today because we don't know whether this will be the proposal that's selected by the government to move forward. I just want to acknowledge the staff at QLDC. So QLDC have obviously been engaged in this process for some time and have done a significant amount of work. And more recently supported with some staff, particularly in the transport space, from in which ORC has had some input into that part of the proposal. We know that there are areas of this proposal that overlap with our core functions, as they do for both CODC and QLDC. We will continue to fulfil that role separate to anything within the regional deal. And that largely for us sits within the regulatory space and also within the obviously within the transport space and our development of our regional land transport plans, regional public transport plans, and the ongoing operation of any public transport network. Just flagging that QLDC considered this paper yesterday and have approved it for submission. And as you've heard, CODC are considering it at the same time. And then the date for submission would be Friday. So that's the proposal that is attached to the paper, along with a series of recommendations for you to consider today. And we are obviously happy to take any specific questions that people have got on that.
Are there any questions? Councillor Somerville.
Yeah, thank you. So, Richard, you said that should this be selected by government to go ahead, at that point we would look at the sort of governance arrangements to see how the council and presumably all three councils would have further input. Now, my understanding is that the timeframes will be pretty tight. Will we have time to sort that out? Or I suppose I'm thinking, are we better to start sorting that out now so we're prepared for that eventuality?
My sense, we would have time for that, and I would say Penny might be better to speak to the specific timeframes, but I don't know if we need to get into that. This table, the governance table, will need to collectively have an involvement in any future deal because there's a number of matters that would need clarifying and in much greater detail than we have now. This table would need to be satisfied with in order to approve our involvement at that stage of the process. We have an existing relationship through Grow Welfare Order with QLDC, which could form the basis of future arrangements. But again, those things would need to be discussed and would need to be agreed around this table. So my advice is that doesn't need to be resolved at this point in the process, because if it isn't selected as a deal to go forward, then there's no need for us to be spending the time on that now.
Thanks. We can come back to you if you've got more. Councillor Wilson, did you still want to ask a question? No. Councillor Forbes.
Kia ora, thank you. I just want to go into that a little bit further. I mean, we've got well, presumably if we chose the chosen ones, we will go into some sort of negotiation phase, which at the Alexandra meeting looked like it might be handled by a government negotiator. I didn't quite understand that. Obviously, the Grow Welfare partnership won't be an appropriate place for that negotiation phase because there's government people on that. But I'm wondering, can you tell me, Richard, how does that early negotiation get underway? And given the tight timeframes, how are we going to cope with that?
Well, I don't have that level of detail, Alex. I don't know, Penny, if you can provide insights into that early process as indicated by DIA.
Kia ora. The only indication we've had from DIA is that there's a two-stage process. If we were accepted, our proposal was accepted as the first one, there'd be an initial phase which is entering into an MOU, which is really will be about how we interact with each other in order to negotiate a deal, and then there would be the actual deal which would come later. Other than that, there hasn't been any definition of the process nor the timelines under which it will be done, other than I think there was an initial indication that MOUs might be done by May, but some of the other timeframes have changed, so I'm not sure that that's certain, and that the first deal they would want signed up by the end of the year. So in terms of when you're getting into negotiating the deal and the actual specifics of what might be in a deal, that is something that is anticipated to take the rest of the year. So whilst the process might start quickly in terms of you're the ones, how's this going to work, who are we going to be negotiating with, getting an MOU in place, the actual process itself will take quite a number of months.
Can I have another question there, follow up?
Sure.
Does that MOU come back to the 3 council tables for approval?
So we don't have any information other than saying that there will be an MOU. What is possible is that when the government comes back to whoever they're going to say they want to work with first, they will come with a proposed way of interacting. We don't know that. So I think at this stage we'd anticipate that any specific things that would end up in the deal would come back to the councils. That would be our intent. But we don't know what the government's intent is in terms of a framework.
So Alexa, from a staff perspective, I guess from if we are signing ORC up to a process, it will need to come back to the council table.
We have to have a process that works for us, don't we? Otherwise we would probably not be a willing partner. So yeah, we need to have processes that work for local government. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Look, I'm intrigued with the way that this process has worked, and I appreciate it's been not of our choosing nor of our time frame. But when I look at the priorities, and I think we should be just looking at the first few pages, because seriously, it was meant to be a light touch. You've got investors and tourism, and you talk about a diverse economy. When we met in Alexandra, we were really clear that it wasn't just about tourism, the diverse economy, that it was about horticulture and many other things. And I just can't see that connection bearing fruit right the way through. In fact, not even on the front page. And there's huge opportunities there with Queenstown being the gateway with the airport. What am I missing understanding the opportunities? And the reason I'm pushing that is because what has been put there is water resilience, which is absolutely key to diversification, but you've only put it under royalties issues and not in the actual body of the document, which was where we thought this was going to be perhaps going.
Is the question what opportunity is there for primary production?
The diversification that you're seeking in your first lines is where is that attached to the land except for tourism, because it's not clear, and there isn't, and what people are talking about is water resilience to provide for that.
Still not sure if the question is, are we providing enough for water resilience?
Okay, no. Okay, let's go back to page one. I'll just go back to page one. So page one, you've got the pictures of the circles with visitors and investors, right? That gives a first proposed project. Is that clear? What we're saying is we want to go from a tourism gateway to investment. But the problem is that the investment in the diverse economy, which then comes out in your page, are we on the same document? Because there are two documents, which makes it quite fraught.
So I think page 12 of the agenda, which is the diagram or the pictorial with the various circles, starts with visitors, investors, goes to transform, transport. Is that the one?
Yeah. So if we're looking at visitors and investors, and I totally buy in to using Queenstown and its gateway to get people looking at investment, I think that's great. But what it just then the disconnect is that if I read through there, it gives it tells us what is there at the moment and what the regions, the two, the sub-region is contributing to New Zealand's economy in the executive summary, and that's page 14. It's the first grey paper. Then it goes to the overview of the proposed packages. The question I've got here is when it's visitors and investors, and it talks in that number one to diverse economy where everyone can thrive, that isn't talking to primary industry particularly well, and because underlying that is a requirement for water resilience. And otherwise it is just talking to tourism. And that is my concern, is that we're not picking up what was seen as that opportunity for the investment to be broader than just tourism. And that is where I personally thought we were getting to at our meeting in Alexandra and our input. I can't see where that investment would be otherwise.
As a question, yeah.
Well, that is a question. It says, where do I see that primary industry investment otherwise? Because I can't see it in there, and I think I'm missing something completely. Or is it only about tourism investment? But I didn't put the words together.
Yeah. I think we've got QLDC unmuting and ready to answer that. Thank you.
Yes. So the intent with this package, and Dylan maybe might want to comment on this as well if he's still there, if he hasn't had to go to his meeting. One of the key drivers in that primary industries perspective area was actually having the investment infrastructure, if you like, in the region. So the focus for the package is leveraging tourism in order to utilising tourism and the Queenstown Lakes District as the place to base international investment, a shopfront for business for the region. And once it's there, then it can be leveraged for a wide range of investments. So from CODC's perspective, having the function there, leveraging the tourism, would enable them to access the investment required across the region for those primary industries. Keeping in mind that this proposal isn't about asking for money for, well, I mean, we have got a couple of things in there in relation to where we think the IVL could go, but as a general rule, it's not about asking for funding for specific projects. This was seen as critical from a Central Otago perspective in terms of bringing the investment infrastructure into the sub-region so that they could easily access it across the Central Otago region for all of those things that you were just talking about, Kate. So Dylan, if you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I could just probably build on that point. I think it's probably the line in there around build partnerships across agencies to increase post-visit economic benefit. So that goes back to the lifetime value of a visitor research, which showed there's a significant level of investment opportunity we're not capitalising on through all sorts of means, whether that's direct investment into business or post-visit purchase. And obviously a big chunk of post-visit purchase for our area can be in the agricultural sector. So I guess that's primarily along with what Penny's just added in around that first package. And then yes, you're right, Kate, the other pieces around that water resilience. It's already been noted by my councillors before we head into the official part of the meeting that this lacks the view of the agriculture sector, and that's probably a miss by me, and I'll put my hand up for that we're focused in on the viticulture, but we haven't really touched on the broader agricultural sector. And so that would be part of the negotiation phase, is that we make it very clear we're not only about viticulture, actually the whole region, the agricultural sector is critical to this region, and obviously water resilience is going to be part of that conversation.
So if I may have a follow-up question, it would be that, my follow-up question would be, if that is your intent, that include agricultural and horticultural matters, what would, the problem is you've got a lot of Queenstown don't want any more tourists, but there's everything in that project one looks like it's tourism, because it doesn't say it's wider, more diverse. It says diverse, but it doesn't say what the diversity is. I'm sorry, is it a minor change to add in horticulture and agriculture into that diverse? Because that is, I think, what you're intending it to be. And that would then, I think, maximise the opportunity for this to provide to the government some certainty that we're looking broader.
Yeah, it's probably a question for ourselves, and the fact that we have 2 days before this needs to be lodged, and it's already been through QLDC's council as well, does make it quite challenging.
I appreciate that, and so that's why.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Wilson. So, you
Can I ask that?
Policy to debate, and you're asking the question: is it a minor change, and are we looking for minor changes today? And so, yep, I'm handing over now to Mr. Saunders, and he can answer.
So there's one of the recommendations you got in front of you is to delegate me the authority to make minor editorial changes. I would need to go away and discuss that with my colleagues at QLDC and CLDC after their council meetings have considered it. I can't answer that now because it's not an arbitrary call that I can make. What I did hear Dylan say is if we were to be successful through the negotiation phase, there is absolutely the opportunity at that point to ensure that we are clear it's broader than just viticulture. But I'm happy to take that away, Kate, as part of the discussion on what those minor changes that you delegate me could be before we submit on Friday, if it passes today.
Well, that's why I thought it was helpful to ask the Mayor and Penny, since they were in that space, because I want this to have the best opportunity, and this is a question, because I want it to have the best opportunity of being successful in the first tranche. And to my mind, it has some shortcomings, and Dylan's owned up to that. I'm just trying to get us into the best space to get us to be on that, even open the door.
Mayor Lewis, did you want to say something? You're unmuted.
I fully understand where Councillor Wilson's coming from, but at this stage, the government's priorities does not include horticulture and agriculture in a definitive sense. They're more interested in the infrastructure and the housing and the growth. And I understand, obviously, water security will enable growth, but we've also got to have an evidential base when we bring it forward. And what we've seen, and I think CODC raised this just before, that the evidential, the business case work, the strategic work has not been at a level where we can actually back some of these assumptions up. So there's a bit of work to do, but this deal actually gives us the opportunity we can go away and do that strategic work between RRT and CODC, but it also gives a pathway to allow that strategic work to flow through the negotiations. As I said before, the Manchester deal has been 13 years, 8 deals. It is a continual process. More stuff ebbs and flows, and more topics can be brought into the space, but totally agree. Water security from CODC's perspective is one enabler for economic growth. But I also go back to the whole purpose of regional deals. When you look at the regional deals, they're all leveraged off something of scale. And at this very point in time, in this sub-region, the scale we have that is New Zealand Inc. significant is tourism. And that's why we've tried to leverage off tourism. So there is, let's say, a method in our madness in that respect. Thank you.
Can I just comment about specifically addressing, is it a minor change to change a diverse economy where everyone can thrive into something that more specifically points to agriculture? The requirements of the proposal are to link back what we're asking for to regional spatial priorities. And so we don't have one set of regional spatial priorities at the moment, but what we do have, we have spatial plans across Queenstown Lakes and Central Otago, as well as economic diversification plans and destination management plans, which for the purposes of this proposal, we've taken that suite as being a coherent set of strategic direction for the region, and they are all consistent with each other, and some of them were developed jointly, and so they are joined up and overlap. And so that diverse economy where everyone can thrive is specifically linking back to objective outcomes that are in the spatial plans, as well as the economic diversification plans of the two districts. So and if you look at those economic diversification plans, they do talk about a broad, diverse economy that is not just about tourism. So I think in terms of being able to change that specific outcome, I wouldn't have thought I don't think that's something we can do at this stage, but I think I'd like to provide some assurance that the plans underneath that is actually referring to do reflect a broader economy than just tourism based.
Yeah, and thanks.
Oh, sorry, Dylan, then I'll go to Councillor Malcolm after you.
Sorry, I was literally just going to support what Penny said. And of course, Central Otago is not only agriculture, not only tourism, we've got construction and other sectors. So by starting to single out sectors, when we're talking Central Otago, we'll run the risk of missing others. So I'm personally comfortable where it sits, but I acknowledge I think we have missed a trick with noting the agricultural importance, and that will be raised by my council today, I'm sure, as well.
Thank you, Dylan. Councillor Malcolm. Yeah, just muted. It might be taking you a wee while to get organised travelling. If there's anyone else with a question, we can come back to Councillor Malcolm. Yeah, no, we're not hearing you at the moment, Kevin. Anyone else got a question? No.
Can someone else unmute him?
Trying, but it's not working.
Yeah, we've been trying to do that from the chamber today for a few people, and it's not currently working.
Sorry.
All right, that's a shame. So at this point, we will be going to debate if there's no further questions. So does somebody here to move a motion? I could, if no one else is, going to move the recommendations as noted there today in the paper. Second. Yep, Councillor Mepham. Okay. So, whoops, just getting sorted here. So yeah, this is I'm going to speak to it at this point as well. It's a good opportunity for us. As we've noted through this process, it's a rare opportunity when we can come together with our brother and sister councils, with our elected representatives, and talk about the issues that are really significant and important for the future development of any area, but this area here, Otago Central Lakes, with some of the biggest growth in terms of population and housing development and tourism and pressures in the country, it's crucial that we do come together. We need to unlock economic growth, build a resilient future through looking at infrastructure and improve housing supply. From our perspective as well, we need to do that within a sustainable setting where we are ensuring that that environment and the natural resources that we're founded upon are sustained for the long term. So the Otago Regional Council does have a unique role. We're responsible for environmental regulation, hazard management and public transport, amongst other things, but of particular relevance to this potential deal. And our job is to look at the bigger picture as well, so how our region functions as a whole and how we can shape its future. So as we look at the Otago Central Lakes area, we are keeping in mind the bigger picture too for our region, and how there are synergies for the rest of Otago as well. It's really important. So yeah, as we've already said, what is on the table today is a starting point. We don't know if it'll be the one deal that's selected this year, and it won't be the final deal. There'll need to be a lot of work that goes on yet. If approved, there will be more detailed investigations, governance arrangements and an MOU with government. But this is our chance to get ahead of the game and ensure that Otago is positioned for long-term success. And I've already talked about what that means. It's about growth, but it's also about protecting the things that we love as well and that drive us and sustain us. And we need to be working together to ensure that that happens and get ahead of the game rather than behind. So the deadline for the light touch submission, as I've said, is 2 days from today. And as I've already said as well, this has been through QLDC already, and today we are joining, well, not joining, but we're separately considering in Central Otago and here in the Otago Regional Council what our positions will be. So I really welcome debate, and I know there's lots of topics in there that are really important to community, and they do spark discussion, and our job as councillors is to be voices for our elected, or we're elected to represent communities and take an oath to represent all of Otago. So it's important that people do have a say on what is important. So we'll open it up now to anyone else who would like to join debate, and welcome that. I can see we've got Councillor Wilson's hand up and then Councillor Weir.
Sorry, I've just got a question. We've got the CODC and QLDC in the room, which is unusual.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, they won't be involved answering questions now.
Or debating. No,
Or debating, exactly. Yeah. Or publicly state that they are now here watching, as anyone else will be, but not involved. It's important that our own council debates. Good point, Councillor Wilson. Exactly. Yep.
Sorry.
Yep,
I don't think. Thank you. There is an issue with the motion too, in that I don't think CODC are deciding this until this afternoon, and in which case that isn't quite correct, although that's me being pedantic as usual.
Thank you. We can alter that. Yep.
I am less certain, and thank you, Penny, for answering the question that I posed. I appreciate the importance of the tourism as a gateway, but I am concerned that this links tourism too much to the investment when the investment has to be sub-region wide, and that opportunity, as Dylan said, is in agriculture, horticulture, which has got a really firm basis of already huge growth, but also in construction and other industries. And I am less impressed with the way this has been drafted because it narrows down those two things in that first option. And I would like to see a minor change to incorporate a very clear that clarity of vision for the diverse economy to be much broader than just tourism. Because I think at the moment they marry up, that disconnect isn't there because of the way it's been structured. And I would see that as minor, but I think it would give the opportunity for the government to invest in this, and for it to be the substantial change, it could be much higher. The other minor change is that I would rather see water resilience not tied to the mining right, but being something that is required whatever is the outcome of the mining in here, because the water resilience is again, I think that's a very narrow matter. It's a minor matter, but we've tagged water resilience only to the mining revenue, and it shouldn't be tagged to that, but it certainly needs a place in here. I'm not so clear where that place is, but I think it's very much tagged to a diverse economy.
Thank you. Councillor Wheeling Callaghan.
Yeah, I'll start with what I like about what's in the deal so far. I think planning and getting ahead of growth is good. The visitor levies are no-brainer for the area. The solar plan has the potential to be a critical initiative for electrification and future-proofing of the region. The conversation around mass rapid transit for Queenstown and bus connections between those towns is a positive one, and that transit-orientated development that's sort of indicated in there is necessary for managing that growth. And I think the plan raises real issues around health infrastructure. And most of all, I like that we're actually getting in the room together, not right now, but getting in the room together for once to discuss those shared issues. And I hope that will continue regardless of the outcome of the regional deal. And now what I don't like so much about what's in there. So first of all, the things that we're actually asking for government, like a visitor levy and legislative barriers to be removed, are things that I reckon should be in place regardless, especially for a government, touting their ability to cut through red tape like that. I also don't like the government won't be contributing any new money to this deal. This is in contrast to the often touted Manchester and Glasgow deals, where the UK government actually contributed hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm skeptical about the feasibility of some of the specific options mentioned there, medical tourism, a gondola, those kind of things. I don't like that Mana Whenua aren't around the table. And to be honest, I don't really like this whole process. It feels unclear what the steps ahead are. It feels rushed. It feels like we have no formal say or oversight thus far in what's in front of us. And it pits regions across Aotearoa against one another, like siblings fighting for their parents' love. But my main reservation, and I'm sure it will come up with some other councillors, is that the deal as it's currently framed, for me, implicitly endorses the, shall we say, problematic fast-track process. So listed fast-track projects for the region include housing projects that are completely counter to more transit-oriented growth strategies. And they'll be poorly planned, disruptive, and potentially costly to councils. And B, mines that undermine the natural beauty and biodiversity that the tourism in this regional deal relies on. And so by signing onto a deal that's asking the government for some of their royalties from future potential fast-track mines, I believe it undermines our council's ability to stand up against a project like this potentially and highlight where it directly opposes our policies or goals for the region. Now that's a lot more things to be concerned about than to be excited about at this stage. Given the timeframes that we're under here today, I'm gonna be voting sort of pro forma for this deal to continue to the next stages. I don't want to stand in the way of the genuinely good things in the deal happening. But I do have to be clear today that when it comes to final approval from this table further down the line, I think this deal has a long way to go before I can support it at those further stages. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Callagher, Somerville, Forbes and Metham.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll support the paper today and the recommendations today. Tentatively concerned. It is, given we've only got a couple of days to go, then really we have no choice but to accept or deny what's put in front of us. It was interesting that given the thousands of words that are in that in the bid, that even the words agriculture, horticulture, viticulture, construction, another 4 or 5 words couldn't be added. But, you know, I see it as very Queenstown centric at the moment. Fair enough, there are major issues in the Wakatipu area, Clutha area, but also there are issues of concern throughout Central Otago as well. And I don't think a fair balance has been met between the two councils. Either way, we should not stand in the way of a bid at the moment because we've been invited to present one. So really the devil will be in the negotiation throughout the next stage, and hopefully there will be far more governance oversight of that as opposed to staff preparation and a fait accompli presented to be ticked off by everybody. The mining royalties situation is, in delving into some of the detail, to me is utterly astounding that an opportunity to have some royalties possibly available more locally into a region, if we're going to have to live with that mine operating, is of course a positive to me, and it should not get in the way of the thinking and overall consideration of the mine. We'll end up either having to live with it or not, whether it gets through the consent process, and then so the ability to have some royalties available to assist with infrastructure or anything else that would potentially be necessary or could be enhanced because of it, then that would be a real asset. So I'll support the recommendations and look forward to how the negotiation proceeds. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Callagher. Councillor Sambon.
Thank you. Look, there's clearly a whole lot of uncertainty surrounding the whole regional deals concept. In this proposal, yes, there's merit in many parts of the content here around public transport and electrification, around cleaner energy, potentially more energy resilience in our region, increasing resourcing perhaps for community housing providers, diversification of the economy and other things too. However, I do have many serious reservations about other things in the proposal. It's looking for more growth in an area already struggling to cope with growth. It acknowledges the problems over tourism growth, but looks for more. There's been no investigation here of how the health proposals, including the promotion of medical tourism, could have an undermining effect on our public health system. The potential financial incentives from mining royalties could imply or lead to support for mining, and that's certainly not to be assumed either. So there are a whole lot of problems as well. And to get here, it has been, I think, a most unsatisfactory process, and that is, I guess, why I'm in a position of being able to say, this is good, but list a whole lot of difficulties, and we've heard that from some other councillors too. So look, I am prepared to support this to go to the next stage, but I believe it is really essential that that process for input, and I guess I'm thinking from the Otago Regional Council councillors, but I'm sure that's the same for all the councillors involved, is meaningful in the future and much more meaningful than we've had the opportunity so far. So yes, let's see where this goes, but go ahead with great care and making sure we have a close eye on what happens in future stages. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Metham. Oh, sorry, Councillor Forbes and Metham.
Thank you. I'm not saying anything very different, but I think the best part of this process has been the bringing together of our three councils, and I'd like to see that continue wherever this goes. There's nothing stopping us from carrying that on. However, I've got real concerns about the encouragement of growth without consideration of our communities or our environment, and that's what this document is really supporting. My main concerns, first with the negotiation phase. I have to accept that the MOU will come back to our table, but this fills me with very little confidence given our input so far, although it's been at our table, has been extremely limited. Haven't been able to change a single thing in the document in front of us. We've been presented with a document that we've been able to discuss but not change, and that's not input. The implied support for mining, as I've said from the moment I saw this document, this is a big problem for me, is actually a bottom line, but I'll come to that in a minute. Plus, it's a big ongoing problem for the district. Money does not flow from mines to communities, even with royalties directed to those communities. Typically 1% of net sales value, up to 5% perhaps, depending on what scheme they're in, and levels of profits in any royalties are likely 10 years away anyway. So pinning hopes on that is just hopium. I'd like to see the two references to mining removed in this document. I doubt I can get there from here. The projects themselves. I have issues around setting expectations for projects that look, in fact, extremely difficult to deliver. These projects are all fraught, and they're setting TAs up for failures in the eyes of their communities as they say, this is happening, but of course it's not. I'll use mass transport system as my example of this, though I think all of them have the same similar problems. A gondola or any such system requires a foundational network of foot and cycle paths that are connected and safe. That this is required to enable any public transport system to operate. We've had extreme difficulty getting such safe pathways in place to service our existing rudimentary PT systems, and I see no recognition of that of this in the project or any way of countering it, and that is a real problem. Like Councillor Ware, I'm very unhappy with this process. I don't see a decent deal coming out of it that we actually can resolve any of these issues. I see the government looking for its own quick wins. I think that good central governance would welcome such approaches at any time, and I don't see that we should be restricted by arbitrary timelines or arbitrary things that we can comment on. So I've got grave reservations here. I'm not going to stand in the way, but my vote for this to proceed should not be considered as support for either the process or suggested projects. And I put you all on notice that I want real opportunity to input at the next phase. So not happy, but won't stand in its way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forbes. Councillor Metham.
Probably going to echo what's been said before, but look, I think this whole regional deals process seems to be a fairly half-baked attempt by this government to support regional growth. It appears to be a lottery where the winner benefits from legislative changes. But having said that, I think this light touch proposal is progressive. If it's not chosen as a winner by this government, I like to think, and like others in this council, I like to think that ORC, Queenstown Lakes and Central Otago District Council can all work together to progress a number of these strategies that have been covered in this document over the next few years. And if the government does want to make some legislative changes, I could suggest that they nationalise our gold reserves. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. No other hands are up, I don't think. Giving those online a chance to electronically raise their hands in case they've forgotten. No. It's not, I think Councillor McCall might be trying to.
Gretchen, it's Kevin here.
Yeah, welcome, Kevin. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, just quickly. Listen, here is an opportunity. I'm not happy. I really do agree with Councillor Wilson and her sentiments around agriculture and growing that as well, which is at the end of the day is going to be the key to the whole area. Tourism will keep going on, but we've got to grow everything else and get things going. The process has been rushed, but please, and I'm really happy to support QLDC, but I'm even more happy to support CODC. So we've actually got to widen that as soon as we possibly can and get the wordings right. We had the whole of December with no council meetings, ORC, and not once did we sit down and say, how can we help form this to be a better deal? So, and that's basically what happens. Then you get something forced on there at the last moment. So we had plenty of opportunity. The document, myself, I hope that QLDC has got the document right in the way that it is a light touch and it's not an over embellishment that will put people off reading. That would be my only opinion on it. But yes, we've got to get to the stage, but we need to be back at the table immediately. There is an inkling that we are successful, because ORC needs to be in there right at the start, not at the end. But we did have our opportunity in December. I am happy to support. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Malcolm. Councillor McColl.
Am I here?
We can hear you, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with pretty much what everybody else has said, to be honest, but I'd just like to recognise the work that's been done getting to this stage, and it's like, it's not easy working, you know, in an ever-changing world with a, you know, ever-changing world of politics and public and community expectations, and I think this is never going to be perfect, but it's actually, it's a pretty extensive light touch, you could say. I think for me, it's really clear there's synergies between both the QLDC and the CODC, and you know, basically they rely on each other for the growth in the wider area and the development of the wider area. And I see the regional council also, you know, with our vision, you know, our environments and communities are healthy and connected, Cutie Tyre from mountains to sea. So, you know, we're all part of it as well, and it does create that regional aspect to it. I think probably the best thing that's come out of this is that we actually have all been in the room and are all starting to work together. And if there's plenty of information there, if the government's sees fit that it's a goer, and we actually get past the line to be the first regional deal, that's when we actually get around the table and we actually start having the hard discussions and negotiations to actually turn some of these well-researched ideas into actual positive actions, and so that we can all grow together. Some really cutting-edge technology stuff there, and there's a lot of stuff that we, you know, if we can pull it off, it's going to be like New Zealand leading and even world leading. So at this stage, we need to stay in the game, and we actually need to stay in the game so we can actually create the game for later on. So I definitely will be supporting the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Can't see anyone else that needs to speak at this point. Oh, sorry. Councillor Noon, are you wishing to speak?
Yeah, that'd be good. Thanks, Gretchen. Hey, sorry, I can't find the hand, the normal electronic hand. Hey, just once again, very briefly, very happy to support this proposal and all the recommendations. Yes, Queenstown Lakes in particular have been grappling with the challenges that they have in all the topics that have been discussed and are included in this light touch application. And yeah, if councils continue to do the same thing they've done year in, year out in terms of negotiating with central government, nothing will change. We'll get the same outcomes. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to get into the negotiating table. Realize there's no money available from central government, but the opportunity for councils throughout Otago to work collaboratively, and certainly with the regional council and Queenstown Lakes and Central Otago in this particular case, I think is a good option going forward. And others have mentioned this already. The collaboration, I think, is important. It's something that I think most of us, when we're elected, we'd like to see efficiencies introduced into local government, and I think this is one way by working together we can achieve that. So yeah, the important thing is it's probably a bit like a fishing trip actually. We're putting the lure into the water and hopefully we get a bite. And once we get that bite, then we can determine what the fish looks like or whatever, and whether we want to let the fish go or put the lure back in. So yep, keen to support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Noon. Right, I think we've had a full muster of comments there. So just a real quick write a reply, which is that fishing lure analogy was fantastic. Thanks, Councillor Noon. Well done on that one. That's exactly what it's like. And again, just really wanted to thank everyone that's been involved in this. There's been actually a massive program of works that started a long time before we developed up this specific proposal that we see today. There's a lot of strategies that sit behind this work, and particularly through the future development strategy work in QLDC and other strategies there that we've had the chance to work in partnership with QLDC, but also through CODC and their strategies as well for their district, and then our own as well, including regional strategies and policies all coming together here. So yeah, that fishing lure is out. Let's see what we can catch here, and let's keep working together, as others have said as well. So a massive thanks to QLDC, who's been leading bringing this together, but to everyone that's been involved, and that's also through early discussions with DIA and also QLDC and bringing iwi as well along with ongoing discussions there too. It's good to keep people in the tent and to keep those conversations going. Right, so we had some discussions as well around whether or not we could have some minor wording changes, and there was certainly a theme there around increasing productivity, and that needs to focus beyond tourism, and that's certainly the discussion that we have been having leading up to this as well. So we've heard from CE Richard Saunders here that he will go away and discuss minor wording changes and see where we get to on that. We've also heard that it would be very difficult at this stage, given it's already been through one council, but there's an undertaking there to go away and discuss what we could do or couldn't do. And noting that there are words there that reflect that we don't want to be too heavily reliant on tourism, and to increase productivity we do need to be looking at other industries, including horticulture and viticulture specifically outlined there. And there was just a discussion that went on around, is that actually broad enough, and could some minor changes be in there? And then there was some discussion around water resilience and what truly will drive primary production resilience and sustainability going forward, which is really important if we want to ensure that we've got a resilient and broad economy in that area, all whilst fitting that into the government's priority focus points, which are economic growth, connected and resilient infrastructure, and improving the supply of affordable quality housing. So heard that actually to be successful, we really need to focus in on there. So thank you very much to everyone leading up to this point. It's a starting point, hopefully, rather than closing the door and not being successful, as many have noted already. And what we can do together beyond just a regional deal. Agree that a regional deal in the process hasn't been ideal. It's been quite difficult to work within that framework, and agree that there's a lot that we could be doing here that's nationally important as well as just locally important. So the process probably could be improved, but in saying that, there's a real opportunity for us, and I think we've seized it with all of our hands together, and it's important. It's really important for this area here, which is growing at such a high rate. And let's see what we can catch with that lure. Thank you, everyone. So sorry.
Sorry, just a note before you put the motions, just in terms of Kate's point around the wording of 2, accepting that there is a timing issue there. So in the interest of accuracy, that will be CDC and QRDC are separately considering the regional deals proposal. So it's just a noting, but reflects that the timing issue. So not a substantive change at all.
Yep, very good. Thank you. That's right. One of the recommendations, which is our motion, needs altered, which is fine. Yep, thank you. So everyone's clear on what they're voting on. Should we put that up on the screen for anyone online as well? Thank you.
Change it all.
Yep, very good. Thank you. That's right. One of the recommendations, which is our motion, needs altered, which is fine. Yep, thank you. So everyone's clear on what they're voting on. Should we put that up on the screen for anyone online as well?
Sorry, don't know why that happened.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully everyone else didn't get that feedback as well, but probably did. Right, so we're gonna put it then. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone. So there's no other matters to consider today. So I'm now gonna close our meeting, and before we do that, I'm just gonna finish with the karakia. Right. Kia tau te rangi Māori ki runga i ngā iwi o te ao. Thank you, everyone. We're now closed.
Thank you.